Hello, hello, everyone. This is Coach Mo, and I've got a special guest. Wait, which way do I have to do the hand thing on this side? Hello, DeVon. How are ya?
Great. How are you?
Good, good. My special guest today is DeVon Franklin. Not only is he the author of the soon to be released book, May 4th, but also a Hollywood producer, a preacher, pastor. You've done a lot of sharing your gifts, Devon, in the Christian
Yeah.
world, and a lot of preaching, and multi hyphenate, I think, was
Mhm.
invented for you.
I'll take it. I'll take
Right.
it. I agree with that. Or
Yeah.
crazy. Crazy,
Exactly.
aka multi hyphenate, whichever one.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got a new movie that's getting started
Yeah.
this week, and many, many wonderful spirit driven and inspirational stories that you like to put out on film. That's your
Yeah.
special niche.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Without a doubt. Entertainment's such a powerful medium. Why not try to use it for some good while still, entertaining people?
Right, right. So good. We've known each other for a couple of years
Yeah.
and shared a lot of conversations um, that are really encompassed in this beautiful book that you wrote. And again, those of you who are just joining us, Devon's book is Live Free, and it comes out May 4th. We're going to put a link for purchase of it ahead of time. You can purchase it now and give Devon some love, and get your pre-order book now, because that matters in how that whole thing gets ranked with books and authors. So don't
Yes.
wait till May 4th. All right.
That's right.
Don't
That's
wait.
right.
Don't
That's
wait. Go out and get Devon's book now. I've pre-ordered a bunch of copies. And matter of fact, Devon, as we go into this conversation, I am going to say that those of you who book a clarity call and get that clarity call completed, and you put Devon in the referred, I'll send you one of his books. But go
Oh,
ahead and order one for yourself, because you're going to want to give one to someone you love. I know it for sure.
I love
Devon, you put so much in this book. It's all around kind of how we create expectations for ourselves, or how expectations are created for us.
yes.
Talk a little bit about the genesis of your concept, and why this was a passion filled book for you to write.
Yeah, for me, I was really observing kind of what was going on in the world, my world primarily, right? I mean, not just an external observation, but just looking at my own life and looking at like, okay, well, when am I disappointed and why do I, have some perpetual frustrations and, what's really going on and what is the path to contentment and happiness and joy? And as I started to look at that, I started to realize like, oh wow, I'm a like a overachiever and I'm committed to, trying to do my best. But I realized that those high expectations that I put on myself and then I felt have been put on me, have created a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. And so I was like, oh, got it. So it's not really life itself, it's expectations of life that are really, really the problem. And so as I started looking at that, and as I started really evaluating people that were, coming to me for help, I realized like, oh, got it. Everyone's struggling with expectations, but not everybody knows it.
Yes.
You don't realize that you may not be reacting to life. You may be reacting to what you expected life was going to bring. And if
Mhm.
it brings it, great. And if it doesn't, you're devastated. Or what you thought this person was going to bring, what you thought your career was going to bring. So it really came from my first internal observations about what I was struggling with, and then starting to evaluate what was going on in the world and seeing that expectations are the secret software that run our life, and that we have to reprogram them and program them for what works for us. And I call that setting expectations. And
Yes.
once we learn the power of setting expectations, then we can set up our life for success.
Yeah. And so you're talking about feeling expectations missed through feeling a certain way, but we also see that being played out. And you write great chapters in your book about how our feelings show us certain things, how perhaps communication problems show us certain things, certainly frustrations and anxiety and worry. But literally, in the moment of being a human being who's got feelings coming and going all through the day, and having to communicate with others, we're really able to see these expectations boil up in feelings and communications. There was one area that you talked about in your book, and I'll take us there in a sec, but just
Okay.
talk
Okay.
about how that plays out for us in our feelings that we have, and what are we supposed to be noticing to know when our expectations are sort of the problem here.
It really comes down to a very simple, what do you call it, assessment, and I call it joy versus pain.
Mm-hmm.
You know when your expectations are healthy, when you have more joy around them than pain. When your expectations are unhealthy, you have more pain than joy. So when you think about what you're trying to achieve and whether or not you're achieving it, and that becomes if it demotivates you, if it unmotivates you, if it's so big that you just every time you think about it, you feel like I'm not enough or I'm not good enough, I would argue that expectation is incorrect because it's bringing more pain. But every time you think about it, if you're like, wow, this is exciting, and I'm excited to work towards my goal, and I'm excited to move forward. Okay, great. I would argue that brings you more joy than pain. So often, we aren't really aware of how we feel. And so I do want people, and this is why I wrote the book, is to get in touch with, well, how am I really feeling? What's really going on the inside? And also resisting the temptation to be so busy that you never really check in. Because a lot of times we're running, 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 we're busy, 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 and we never get a chance to check in with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
How are we feeling? What's really going on? Am I joyful? Am I feeling in pain? Am I stressing myself out trying to achieve something that I feel like I have to achieve in order to prove to somebody or myself that I am something instead of just believing it? So it does start with feelings. When we talk about living free, you can't live free if you don't feel good. You
Right.
can't live free if you feel oppressed, if you feel in pain. So it's really about learning the power of getting in touch with how you feel and then using that as a barometer to know what you need to do.
And so many of us are raised not to be in touch with our
Yeah,
feelings
yeah,
because
yeah.
our parents or teachers or other adults around us really didn't like to have to attend to the things that we weren't feeling good with. So they suggested maybe not to feel that way, or it'll be okay, or don't cry about that, or, all sorts of ways that we are given really, really mixed messages about feeling our feelings. What's one way that you've sort of gotten yourself more acclimated to being okay with feeling things that aren't really that great of feelings in order to give yourself some guidance?
Well, here's the interesting thing. In my experience, feeling badly, right, it's a pretty easy feeling to know. It's like, oh man, I don't feel good.
Mhm.
But understanding why we feel badly sometimes is the hard part.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of times when we start to feel badly, we want to look outside. We either want to point the finger at somebody, we want to point the finger at a circumstance or situation, we want to point the finger at, oh, if this was better, then I would feel better.
Right.
And what I have realized is that's not living free.
Yeah.
When we live free, the definition of living free is to not be under the mental, emotional, or physical control of anyone or anything. And so a lot of times when we're feeling something, we aren't exactly sure why we're feeling it. And I know for me, it's taken a long time for me to get in touch with those deeper feelings of like, oh, this is why I'm feeling this way, and being okay with that feeling,
Mhm.
because that's not always easy at all, right? Like especially when you don't, if anyone's like me, struggling with having, your needs met and being okay with having needs. And it's like, well, I'm not supposed to have needs. And where does that come from? And so being okay with the fact that I have needs, being okay that I am not meeting my needs, and being okay with assessing why do I feel this way, and then having the courage to do something about it. I
Right.
think that is because the worst trap anyone can fall into is to feel badly and then fall into the trap of hopelessness, that
Yes.
it will never change, and it can never change.
Yeah, that's a tough place to be. You mentioned another concept, which I think most human beings are raised not to be, and that is to not be selfish.
Yeah.
And so often we get confused with taking care of ourselves, our feelings, paying attention as being selfish. If we do anything to our highest good, it seems like selfish. It seems like we're wrong. And I know you address this in your book, and you did such a great job of really talking it through and asking questions. What am I getting out of this? All
Yeah.
right. Whether that be the relationship, friendship, job, church, relationship, whatever it is, what am I
Yeah.
getting out of this is something that a lot of people are uncomfortable thinking about, because that sounds like they're being selfish. And again, most human beings, little kids, were told not to think about themselves that way.
Oh my
How do we
goodness.
navigate that? Because that is a key element of guiding your life in a way that's going to serve your highest good. So how do we get into what am I getting out of this and not feel like we're being selfish?
Well, this is such a great question. And this is one of the reasons why we don't always become who we can become, who we're destined to be. And it is also why we don't always have what's available to us because of this, right? So there's a scripture in the Bible that says, love your neighbor as yourself.
Right.
Okay. So
Uh-huh.
what happens though is we focus on the neighbor part.
Right.
And then we say, oh, we're not loving our neighbor well. Well, maybe we are loving our neighbor at the level that we love ourselves, which may not be very well.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about being selfish in the book, I talk about you have to self-prioritize, which is different than being selfish,
Yes.
right? So selfishness is when I get my needs met and I don't care how much pain I cause along the way. So I get my needs met and I don't care what I have to do to you to get my needs met. I will take, I will steal, I will, whatever I got to do. That's selfish, right? I put myself number one and I don't care who hurts as a result.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Self-prioritizing is something totally different. It means I prioritize my well-being.
Yeah.
In order for me to be of service, of greater service to anyone else, I first have to be of service to myself.
Right.
I have to identify what are the things that I need to do that make me feel good, that help me stay in a positive mindset, that fill me up. I talk about this in the book. Filled cups fill cups.
Right.
Period. So if I'm an empty cup, I can't fill anybody. Period. In the story. If I'm full, then I can fill others. And so when we talk about self-prioritization, it's about identifying the things that fill us up. And that is so important because so often people do not think this way. We're trying to fill everybody else up. We're trying to meet everybody
In
else's.
our picture.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Nothing
And that, why is there so much, frustration and anxiety? Because people are not taking care of themselves. There's no self-prioritization. We are literally, I talk about this in the book, when you're on a plane, and the oxygen mask comes down and you hear over the loudspeaker, in case of emergency, put your mask on first and then help others. At first, I thought that was crazy because I'm like, no, you got to go help everybody else. And then you realize no, that's absolutely not true, because if I don't have my mask on and I'm trying to help everybody else, maybe I can help 2 or 3 people. And then what happens? I die because I can't breathe.
That's right.
Whereas if I put my mask on and I can breathe and I'm taking care of my well-being, then I can go help save the entire plane. And so this is about taking care of yourself, me taking care of myself, not because I don't care about others, but because I care about others. I care about others so much. I've got to care about me first.
Yes. Yes. And oh, I got to go there. The truth of human beings caring for each other does necessitate that we are in our full, highest divine self in order to work, be in relationship, be a friend to another, because otherwise we're actually trying to fill our cup from the outside world in.
Yes,
That
come
just
on.
doesn't work either.
No, it doesn't work. I mean, what you're hitting on is so good and it's so true. The filling of the cup is an internal process.
Mm-hmm.
And the danger of filling the cup externally is then we become dependent, right? We become, so if we allow someone to be the primary filler of our cup, it doesn't mean that someone can't make contributions to our cup, right, so to speak.
Right.
Yes, of course. If that's why you date, that's why you marry, that's why you find a partner, because you want that love to help fill your cup. But if we depend on someone else to be the primary filler of our cup, we wonder why our emotions are up and down.
Yes.
Because the one day they feel it great, we're like, yes. And then the next day they don't feel it at all. And we're like, who is this person, right? We're pointing the finger. We're pointing the finger at somebody who's not doing something that we aren't doing for ourselves. And then we want to get mad. I believe that the way we treat ourselves becomes the standard by which others treat us.
Amen. Not only the standard, it becomes the reverberation that is that we are sending out into the world. If I'm sending out into the world, I am worthy.
Yes, there you go.
Priority.
Yes.
And not only are we literally communicating that, we are vibrating at our spiritual truth.
Yes. Yes. I love that.
Yeah. And that spiritual truth allows us to then also be more tuned into making inspired action, having the right communication with someone, noticing something over here that's to our highest good, that when we would be maybe focused on someone filling our cup, we're not going to notice this beautiful opportunity or this spontaneous thing that comes our way that would be like, oh my goodness, that's like a gift being sent. And God doesn't speak in a big, loud language.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's very subtle, very quiet.
Yes. However, one of the things you write in your book, which I totally love. I know this might sound crazy. I'm quoting you here on page 106, but I want you to thank God for the problems you have, because God is trying to wake you up, your spiritual alarm clock. Because when we have so much discomfort, it's God's way of getting our attention to do something different.
Absolutely. And so often, listen, I'm guilty of it too, right? So I wrote the book that I needed to read and need to live by. So I'm not sitting here saying, oh, I've got it all figured out. Like,
right.
It's like, hey, we understand the concepts and we're always walking out and trying to learn those concepts.
Yeah.
But to that concept, in particular, the thing about problems is that so often we're rushing through them.
Mm-hmm.
We're rushing. I want to get through it. The problem is causing me pain. I want to solve the problem. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So let's put it in another analogy. You have a headache. I just want the aspirin. I don't want to do any other work to figure out, well, why do I have the headache? Oh, there may be a larger problem that, I need to know about that I could actually solve. No, right. I just want the solve, not trying to understand where it actually is coming from. And in my experience, problems are a phenomenal way that God used to get our attention that, hey, that either you're going in the wrong path, or you're going with the wrong person, or you're not really taking care of yourself, or there's something more I want you to know about who you are, and you'll never know it unless you go through the growth this problem is bringing. Yeah. So instead of looking at problems always through the lens of what's wrong, I'm not saying don't be focused on solving your problems. Of course, when problems arise, I want to focus and solve them too. But I also now have a perspective that problems are great teachers. And I want to learn as much about me as I possibly can. And I see that God does use problems to teach me and to also help me grow into who he has created me to be.
Right. And problems can be situational, but they can also be big life events. I had breast cancer that caused me to go into that wound in a deeper way and really helped me see that our soul is the life force and the energy that we must take forward into the world. And without it, we're just kind of like doing in the world versus really shining and being. Your dad died at the age of 9. Yeah. Well, you were 9. That caused you to fall in love with cinema.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a big inspiration. Yeah.
Yes. So talk a little bit about how that continues to bring you up into your divine truth, having had that wound as a young child.
Yeah, it was definitely, I talk about this in the book, because so often we experience trauma and we experience tragedy. And that also inadvertently sometimes can keep us from living free because we're under the mental and emotional control of a past event.
Yes.
And so for me, when my father died, that was a traumatic moment. And so what happened in that moment was, we didn't have any money for therapy. I don't even think we had any sort of health insurance, anything like that. So what became therapy or therapeutic for me was going to church and watching movies and TV shows. And so escaping through entertainment really began to really help heal me along with what I was experiencing in the church. And so I began to think like, oh, wow. One, I was so enamored with the world. I mean, movies like Back to the Future and Color Purple and, the Rocky franchise. I mean, I was so just fascinated with how do you do this? How do you make this movie magic? And so that idea kind of captivated my imagination. And I began to pursue, going to Hollywood. I mean, at a very early age. And the reason why I wanted to be in Hollywood was I really wanted to make change in the world. And I felt like entertainment was one of the most positive mediums in the world. Not positive, excuse me, influential mediums in the world.
Yeah.
And I wanted to use it in a positive way because I felt like, entertainment and movies and watching TV shows really helped save me. And I felt like, okay, well, if it can help save me, I want to use it to save others. And that really became the reason why I got into entertainment. I've been in the entertainment business now for 25 years and worked my way up from unpaid intern for Will Smith to now running my own production company and now making, when I was I also was an executive for Sony Pictures Entertainment and worked on everything from Pursuit of Happiness all the way to Heaven is for Real, and now producing my own films that are inspirational. And so it's amazing to me that, when I got in the business at 18 years old, I set an intent. In that first internship interview, I was very clear on why I was in the business. And it's amazing to me to see 25 years later, making good on that intent. Even as an executive, to be able to work on some of the most inspirational movies that Hollywood has ever produced. And then now, producing my own, it's just amazing that trauma from my father and the tragedy, there was a benefit to it, right? Because if I hadn't gone through that and didn't have that intent, others may have not gotten encouraged through the content I've had a chance to be a part of.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me because of the various inspirational films I've worked on and talked about how it gave them hope. Some people were considering to commit suicide and watched, Breakthrough or Miracles from Heaven, movies I've produced, and said, wow, you're really encouraging me. Families were going to throw in the towel and they watch my movies. They say, wow, okay, we're going to keep going and keep praying. And so while I would, I don't know the reason why my father passed. When I get to heaven, I'll have to say, God, tell me why you did this. Why this happened?
Together for me, will you?
Right, exactly. Let's go get it. Right.
Right.
But until then, I can still see that out of that tragedy has come tremendous purpose.
Yeah. When you were, let's just call it this way, a stressed out executive, and there were two situations you mentioned in the book. One was when you were working for Will Smith's production company and moved up a little bit, but then kind of plateaued out. And I want you to talk about kind of the moment of surrender a little bit, because that's an important element to how we allow the divine partner of ours to come in and help us. Yeah. So talk about that situation when you were basically told there was nowhere else for you to grow in what was at the time, I think, your dream job, and you were like ready for more.
Right. I sure was. So I talk about this in the book, and I share a lot of my own personal journey in the book to really help anyone reading the book and anyone on a journey to know that, we're all in this together. And, again, I haven't figured it all out. I just teach what I know at the time I know it.
Right.
And
right.
so the story you're talking about, I was an executive for Sony Pictures Entertainment. And as I mentioned, worked on everything from Pursuit of Happiness, 7 Pounds, Pink Panther, Captain Phillips, so many movies. And one of the movies that I oversaw from start to finish as the lead executive was the remake of The Karate Kid. And we shot that movie in Beijing. It was the first American movie since The Last Emperor to shoot in Beijing. And Jaden Smith, Will and Jada Smith's son, starred in the film, and Jackie Chan starred in the film. And so, I was in Beijing about 9 times in 9 months overseeing that movie. And it was, there would be times I would be in the office. The Sony Pictures lot is in Culver City. And so I'd be in the office at like 1 o'clock in the morning, because that would be the time when production would be starting. And there would be certain things I would need to get. Production would be starting in Beijing. And there are certain things I would need to get done with the producers. So long story short, gave my heart and soul to that movie. And the movie, we made it for like $40 million. And the movie went on to become a massive success. I mean, I think the opening weekend, it opened over $50 million and then went on to do almost 400 million worldwide. So incredibly profitable for the studio, and one of the biggest hits of that year. And so my assumption, and I talk about this in the book, be careful when you have an expectation and then you make an assumption based on the expectation, what's going to happen. My expectation was, if I work hard enough, then I will get promoted, right? If I work hard enough on Karate Kid, then if that movie is successful, I will get promoted. I made an assumption based upon a false expectation. Why was it a false expectation? Because it was unset. Why was it unset? Because I was expecting something that wasn't realistic. Why wasn't it realistic? Because it was out of my control. Anything that's out of our control, I believe it is unrealistic for us to expect. I did not control
the communicated too.
That's right.
Unset. Right. It was not a communication agreement. That's right. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. It was unset because it was unrealistic and it was uncommunicated. Yes. Meaning I didn't sit down with my bosses and ask the question, hey, if Karate Kid is successful, can I expect to be promoted from the success of the movie? I never asked the question. I just assumed that if I worked hard enough on the movie and it worked and the movie was successful, it would lead to the promotion. So fast forward to, we get to the movie is successful. I mean, literally in the history of me being at Sony for like 10 years, our chairman threw on a Monday morning, she threw 2 parties for 2 movies. One was for the success of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I think it was. And 2 was for the Karate Kid. In the 10 years that I was at that studio, we probably released hundreds of movies, but she only threw Monday morning parties for 2 to congratulate everyone on the success. So I'm thinking, hey,
banner year, what?
We're good.
Spotlights are on me, right?
We're good, okay? So then what happened? After the movie, came out, my bosses at the time, they were running the division. They called me down. They say, hey, we're meeting with everybody and want to meet with you. And, we know Karate Kid was a major success and, and it's definitely done well, but we have too many senior executives at the company. We're not going to be able to promote you. You're going to not only can we not promote you, but you're going to have to still service other executives on their movies. And so I'm sitting there and I'm listening to them. And of course, I'm devastated and I'm angry and I'm frustrated. And I don't say a whole lot to them in the meeting because, I just don't want to say the wrong thing.
Right.
So I leave the meeting and I just say, you know what? I don't feel a release to quit yet. Like, I know I'm not supposed to quit. So I was like, all right, what am I going to do? So you talk about surrendering, part of the surrendering was, oh, okay, I have to surrender to my false expectations. I have to surrender to this idea that I've been trying to do the math on my career and it's wrong. So one of the things that I did though, was I went in to the chairman of Sony, who was the boss at the time. And I just said to her straight up, I said, what is the path here? I said, because I don't understand the path. I'm doing everything you all are asking me to do. I'm doing it well. I'm exceeding your expectations.
Right.
Let's look at the Karate Kid. It was so successful. And look how much money you've made. And it got no promotion. And what she said to me, which was fascinating, she said, working basically on the Will Smith movies is not going to make your career because he's Will Smith, right? And on some level, those movies would be happening without you.
Thanks a lot.
Right. It's like, okay, truth
Oh,
today. We get a lot of truth, you know? It's
woo.
like, ooh, so all right, okay. So I said, okay. She said, the thing that you need to do is make the movies that only you can make. And I will give you the room in this company to do it. So, what are the movies that I can make? Movies that are faith affirming, movies that are inspirational, and movies that at times have a diverse element to them.
Mhm.
So, I said, okay, got it. So, what I did was I went and found this movie called Jumping the Broom. It was a very low budget a script that we could do for a low budget, about this black family wedding in Martha's Vineyard. And so I made that movie for $6 million. The movie made 40. That led me to make Whitney Houston's last film called Sparkle. We made that for 14. The movie does just around 30. That led me then to make Heaven is for Real, which is a book that I bought. In that movie, we made it for $14 million. It goes on to make $100 million. And that movie, Heaven is for Real, gave me enough cachet that 2 days after opening weekend, I went in to quit. I said to Amy, I said, okay, you told me what to do. I did it. Now you've all made all this money and I can't participate in it because I'm an executive. So I said, now I'm going to start my own company. I want you to fund it so that I can actually participate in the value that I'm creating.
Yes.
And to her credit, she said, yes, we did the deal. And now I've been, producing now for about 5 years. And so, but it all came from facing the harsh reality and the pain of unset expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And when you magnify that, think about it. I'm so glad that I had the courage to talk to Amy, right?
Yes.
Because she gave me some clarity, even though it was hard. Truth, she gave me clarity. I know that's the work that you do. Y'all, the clarity calls. You try to bring people clarity, but it's not always the clarity you want, right? It's like, no, let me tell you the truth.
That's right. It is truth. Right on.
But think about this. Think about when how people apply that to their lives. Think about how many people are living a life based upon false and unset expectations, and experiencing the pain, but never stopping to say, well, what do I got to do about it?
Yeah.
And that's why I wrote this book, because I don't want another life to be living the life they were never supposed to live.
Right. But it's so human of us to put up with it, isn't it? It's so human of us to have all these psychological mechanisms where we adapt into our lower version of life, into that smaller configuration, because we're afraid of getting hurt by putting ourselves out there. We're afraid of failing and really deeming the truth that we're not worthy. So rather than sticking ourselves out like you did when you talked with the chairman of Sony Pictures, I'd rather not. I'm just going to stay small, and maybe this is all God wants of me. Maybe this is all that's in the plan for me, is to stay small. I've got to just put up with it.
That's right. That's right. And again, we make a false assumption, right? Because it's like, I'd rather someone get the truth than to live in denial. And then that smaller version then becomes the life that you live when there was actually more available to you.
Yes.
There is a bigger life. There is a more prominent life. There is a more fulfilling life. Yet it requires the courage, the fear, and it requires setting your expectations correctly.
Right. Which takes courage.
Yes.
We have a saying in our kick-ass group. I send out little cards with one of these sayings, and it's "Do it afraid, be kick-ass."
I love it. That's so good.
And that's what you did with Amy Pascal, the chairman of Sony at the time when you spoke to her. You did it afraid.
Yep.
And the only way we can truly do things afraid is if we know that there's a divine energy with us, through us, and there, that we're really not going to fall too far. We might fall. We might skin our knees. We might hurt a little bit more. We might get a little disappointed, but it's stuff we can handle.
Yeah.
And you talk about Reverend Run. I actually thought it was kind of an ironic name, because this was a gentleman who was literally running from his life, numbing himself out.
Yeah.
And this is unfortunately what a lot of us humans do. We numb ourselves. We run thinking that we're chasing away from the stuff that we don't want. And the truth is, it's got us caged and dragged down, even if we think we are running.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so true. I mean, what you're saying is correct. I mean, and what's amazing, and it's also one of the subversive reasons why I'm in entertainment is because entertainment is when you look up the definition of entertainment, it is
Yeah.
escapism.
Yes.
People leave reality, go to, another place, and then they come back. Why is entertainment so prominent? Because of its numbing effect.
Yes.
I don't want to deal with my reality. Let me go plug into the reality of this movie or these characters in this show or this sporting event or this music. It helps me pass the time. And in that time, I don't have to think about me. Doesn't mean that entertainment is wrong, but it does have a numbing effect because too often, people are running from themselves. But the reality is you have to decide which pain is greater.
Right.
The pain of never becoming or the pain of numbing.
Right.
Right? Because
Yes.
you numb because you're in pain. Right? I'm not who I want to be. I don't have the life I want to have. I'm not in the marriage I want to be in. I don't have the job I'd like to have. So instead of addressing that pain, we numb it. Right?
Yes.
Okay. But the numbing works against the becoming.
Ah, and not only that, we're not only not becoming who we are destined to become, we're ignoring our divine path. We're
Absolutely.
also costing ourselves the emotional turmoil and pain,
Yes,
and in many cases, financial losses
for sure.
and relationship losses. I talk to so many women on our clarity calls. By the way, ladies, if you're interested in talking with us, it's mofall.com/live clarity, who have lost the depth of the relationships with their marriage, their kids, etc. And they're just too busy,
Mm,
caught up and in their pain when they're not too busy.
yeah.
The nervous system is overloaded, overwhelmed, and there's this story that
Yeah.
I can't get out of it. You have lots of great nuggets on um, unlocking your potential, on feeling the feelings that you really must feel. Uh, Tell us a little bit about how you began claiming a higher sense of self based on feeling what you're feeling and based on understanding that you have to communicate expectations and really stepping into that.
Yeah. Again, it's just for me, I am, middle child of three boys. And, I think as middle children, we're always fighting for our place in some regard, trying to figure out where we fit in the world, always wanting our voice to be heard, so on and so forth. And so, I definitely am no exception. And part of what that has done for me it's like I'm always in pursuit of my place, and always in pursuit of like where I belong. And so that pursuit of place and where I belong, it's really what, has made me so much more attuned to what's happening inside of me,
Yeah.
because I'm like, there have been times I'm like, okay, wait, no, this doesn't feel right. This is not, no, I think that there's more. I think I'm not quite aligned, with God's purpose for my life. I mean, last time I did a book, I was stressed out and, just trying to do too much. Right. And
Mhm.
so for me, I know this is a recurring theme in our interview, which I think is good for anyone listening. It's been pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been pain that has been the what do you call it, alarm. It's been the pain, where it's like, hey, wait a second, this doesn't feel right.
Mm.
The pain of being passed over for the promotion, the pain of not really having the voice that I want, like all of that, being in touch with that.
Yeah.
And then I personally am committed to becoming everything I was created to be. And I just can't, anything that stops me from that, I can't tolerate it.
Yeah.
So that has been the path for, me to come into this awareness and continue to want to grow in it. It's just my low, my inability to tolerate less than what's destined for me.
And that I believe comes from really claiming your divine truth. And um, some people could look at you, DeVon, and say, "Well, that's easy for him to say." Okay, but here's the real truth. Everyone who's listening, and especially if you're listening to DeVon or know his story, you didn't come with someone throwing these things in your lap.
Right.
And having the courage to pursue the highest version of you, having the courage to listen as powerfully as you could to the next step, and believing that God was hanging out with you in those moments where you were more courageous.
Yeah.
You decided, no, I'm not going to feel pushed into a corner and flatlined in my career. I want more in life. I want to play at a higher level. I want to be more expressive in my gifts. You also talk, which I think we spoke about a little bit, but you also talked about how unexpected events can reveal unexpected gifts.
Yeah.
And I think the only way we really get unexpected events turning into gifts is when we are willing to look at the world as a favorable place.
Yeah. That's great. I love that. I love that. That's so good. That's really, really good. Right. Because if you don't look at if you look at the world as an unfavorable place, then you're not positioned to see the blessings in the way that the blessings are available to be seen.
Yes.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. And choosing that takes regular doses of faith, regular doses of
You got
believing,
that
right? It's like you got to take the dose every day.
right.
Pour that faith into, it's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful life. I will be blessed today. I will see magic. I will participate in my co-creation. I will have love and joy expressed around me and through me. And that vantage point
Yeah.
takes a little bit of climbing up the hill of some of this tragedy and unwanted and the feelings that we don't want to have. We have to elevate our view a little bit so we can see over the tree line.
Absolutely. We do. And that's not easy to do,
No.
you know, especially when, those trees are the life that you don't really want, and the things that make you frustrated and things that bring discontent. And when those trees are there, it's very hard to, rise above it, or above them, and to see differently. But your point is totally right in that it takes, regular doses of faith, and believing that this world is actually, a positive world, not a negative one.
Yeah. You talk about in your book also about really getting your joy back and
Yeah.
creating,
Yeah.
unlocking the power of appreciation. How do you go about doing that for yourself?
Yeah, it's such a powerful practice, and
Yeah.
this is why I put it in the book, because you can't live free if you don't appreciate. You can't. Like, if you are always angry, if you're always frustrated, if it's never enough, then you're never going to live free, because whatever circumstance you're frustrated is going to control you. So the way that you can navigate, kind of like what you said, looking above the trees, is appreciation. And I talk about this in the book, that, hey, we all can look at those trees in our life and get depressed depending on what the tree is. There we go.
Show it again.
I love it. And so as a result, right, what happens is that when we look at those trees, we start to get depressed, we start to get anxious. And I say, no, 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 no. The way to get out of that rabbit hole, just take 60 seconds of gratitude. Find as many things as you can be grateful for in 60 seconds, and it's like, okay, you know what? I'm grateful for this drink. I'm grateful for my shoes. Like, just do it.
Anything around.
Anything. I'm grateful that I'm alive. I'm grateful I can see, whatever it is. 60 seconds of gratitude will take you out of the rabbit hole, because it's hard to be upset and appreciative at the same time.
Yes.
So when we practice that appreciation, it really helps. One, it really helps increase our vibration. It helps settle us. It helps focus. And we say, okay, you know what? Once I can appreciate what I have, then I can appreciate the more that's coming. If I keep saying what I have is not good enough, then okay, well, you're going to get more of what's not good enough.
Right.
But if you say, hey, you know what? I want more, but I appreciate what I have now. I appreciate what I have now. That appreciation then appreciates. Right. So if you think about, property value, your property value appreciates. Why? Because you made an investment, and over time it gets more valuable.
Yes.
So your appreciation appreciates. My appreciation appreciates. So anytime I'm in kind of that, a negative state, I go back to the problems as blessings. Oh, Lord, thank you for these problems. I know that sounds crazy. Thank you. I appreciate the problems, because if you brought me these problems, it's because I'm intended to grow. I'm intended to get greater knowing. I'm intended to increase. And so that for me is so powerful. So that's how I practice it. Anytime I get in a negative, mindset, I practice appreciation. And then every day when I wake up, I try to practice appreciation. I know, part of your teaching, the brags, and the grads, it's like, hey, what are you bragging on, and what are you grateful for? So, we definitely, share a similar philosophy in order to keep our mindset focused and keep our mindset on appreciating even the things we don't like, because knowing that appreciation increases the vibration, and we only receive at the level at which we vibrate.
That's right. Amen to that. And isn't that then setting expectations for that truth to be our life?
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Exactly. Because see, when I talk about setting expectations, as we were talking earlier, the two questions you have to ask when you are talking about setting expectations: one, is it realistic or unrealistic? How do you know? It's because what's in your control.
Right.
Two, does it need to be communicated, or is it uncommunicated? Which is, is it spoken or unspoken, which means communication. So on the first part, right, we actually can set our expectation around, our vibration, and because we can control it.
Right.
It's something we can control. Like, I can control being appreciative.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't need anyone to promote me to be appreciative.
Amen.
I don't need, my spouse to love me to be appreciative.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need $1,000 in the bank to be appreciative. I can just be appreciative now. I can practice that gratitude, and understanding, like, oh, got it. So if I can just practice that and take control over something that seems so small, being grateful, I then can take control of how I feel. I then can take control of how I vibrate. I then can take control of what I expect. And then you begin to see life changes. All because we take control over something that seems so small, but it has major repercussions in what ultimately happens. And that's why I wanted to write this book. That's why I'm writing. That's why I wrote Live Free.
Yeah.
Because I want everyone to live free. I want you to live in the freedom of your calling, the freedom of your creation, and to understand that you have more power than you think. And that's why I wrote this book, is to give people the tips and tools on how to take that power back.
Amen to that. Do you happen to have your book handy? Because I would love you to read
Yeah.
one of your affirmations on page. Do you have it handy?
I do.
All right. It's already in the bookshelf.
That's right. You know how we do it. Yes. Why not? Why not put it in the bookshelf?
Right. And as a reminder, before DeVon reads page 175, it's just beautiful what you have here, the set of affirmations. Your book comes out May 4th, but please, ladies and gentlemen, order the book. Buy it today. Get yourself a pre-order copy. Give DeVon some love. We want him to appreciate how much all of his own personal experiences brought into this beautiful gift of a book is really a toolkit for how to shift, going from being frustrated and expectations not met to living free. And I know that the relationship chapter is where we have these affirmations, if you will, DeVon, but I would just love you to just read them and sort of, send us in a bit of a prayer mode and focus on really lifting our vibration over these beautiful, beautiful statements.
Sure. This is the love affirmation that I wrote for singles in particular. However, it certainly applies to anyone. And so this is what I wrote on page 175. Yes, the timetable for your love story is out of your control. But here's one realistic expectation you can set. Repeat after me this love affirmation. I receive what I believe. I believe in me. I believe in love. I love myself. I am the love I want to receive. I release my anxiety. I release my fear. I release my doubt. I open my hands. I open my mind. I open my heart. I won't wait to love. I love myself now. I love my life now. I love my love now. I love God now. I'm grateful for love now. And the love I believe is on the way. Amen.
Amen. That's
Amen.
just a beautiful way to express our expectations in a present tense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
as we've talked so many times, expressing how we want to feel when that thing gets done, taken care of, accomplished, etc.
Yeah.
That's always pushing that out there. And so our feelings of appreciation and satisfaction are always in the future.
Yeah.
When we can bring that in now,
Oh,
when
yeah.
we can literally pull ourselves into, I love myself now. I love
Yes.
life now.
Yes.
We are in that space of expecting love,
Yeah.
expecting beautiful things to happen around us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, what you're saying is one of the reasons why I wrote the affirmation in the book, because in my experience and my work with singles, there is this idea that, I have to wait to love until I'm in the relationship.
Yeah.
And I believe that when you do that, you actually miss out on learning how to love first yourself and being the love you want to then receive. Because then you get into the relationship and you're trying to use that person to then love you. But then if you haven't been loving yourself, a lot of times relationship won't work. And so I wanted to give singles hope specifically around not waiting to love. Love yourself now. Love who you are. Love God. Love your life. Love the love that you give.
Right.
And know that the more you do that, the more it positions you to receive the love that you believe is on the way. So I really wanted to write that to give hope and to give help to specifically singles, because, singleness, there's such a stigma around it, even in our culture today. There's so much pressure about why you're single and shouldn't be single. So I just wanted to write something specifically for singles to give them encouragement and to really help them set expectations appropriately.
Yes. Yes. Speaking of expectations, there's a lot of controversy, I think, in the world about setting goals.
Oh, yeah, there is. Yeah.
People don't want expectations to be ruined or unmet, and so they don't even set goals. You talk about that, about fixing your goals in the book. And let's wrap up with a little bit of DeVon wisdom on setting goals and how they can work in our favor to keep us within expectations of wanting a great life.
Yeah, great. So, when we talk about goals, there's a chapter in the book where I talk about setting fake goals, right? And when I set a fake goal, it's based upon an unset expectation. So let's go back to the Karate Kid example and the promotion example.
Yeah.
It was a fake goal. Why was thinking that the success of a movie or a project was going to promote me? Why was it a fake goal? Because it was not set, right? How come it wasn't set? Because the thing that I wanted was out of my control. What would have been a realistic goal? I'm going to work hard on this movie. I'm going to learn about making movies on this movie. I'm going to learn how to oversee an international production. I will become better as an executive. And that me becoming a better executive is going to benefit me somehow, some way in the future when I don't exactly know. Yes. Right. But having goals that are based upon set expectations then can be very powerful. But a lot of times, here's what happens. We set a goal. I want to make a certain amount of money by a certain period of time. So then I'm going to pause. Let's just pause for a minute. Have you asked yourself why?
Right.
Why do you want it so badly?
Yes.
What is making that amount of money going to do for you? Because here's what happens. A lot of times, in my experience, you set that goal, and that goal is directly related to value, how you feel. Mm-hmm. And that is really dangerous water.
Yes.
Because if I set a goal that I need to make a certain amount of money because I want to feel a certain type of way, then I become enslaved to that type of money and I will never be happy.
Mm-hmm.
When I make the decision now, my goal is to feel good. My goal is to enhance my value. My goal is to learn. My goal is to grow. And by the way, I would love to earn six figures, or I would love to get a 50% increase in my salary. Nothing wrong with that.
That's right.
But when we make that the goal, we then sometimes we miss it. Or if we do hit it, it stresses us out, right? We get an ulcer. We do all these things because we're trying to work our way into it.
Yeah.
I talk about this too. I talk about this in the book. The process is the result. So when you talk about setting goals, you got to say, okay, the best goal to set is the process, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's hang on promotion for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get promoted. Okay, great. Unless you are the CEO of the company, the promotion is out of your control. Nothing wrong with that. What do you control? Your process every day.
Yeah.
How you work. What type of colleague are you? What type of employee are you? How's your enthusiasm? How's your excellence? How thorough are you? How much research do you do? You know, what type of teammate are you? All of those things are in your control. And I guarantee you, as a CEO of my own company, when I have employees that focus on the process and put that type of care in the process, whether I can promote them in that moment or not, I'm always looking for opportunities to improve their status and to let them know how valued they are, because it's very rare. So often the fake goal of, I want to make money or I want to get promoted, people focus on that. I'm like, okay, great. If that's the case, why don't you work that way every day?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So set the goals that are realistic, meaning they're in your control. And I promise you, when anyone starts to do that and focusing on what's in your control and having peace on what's out of your control, you're going to see yourself starting to live free. And you're going to start see yourself living in a way that you dreamed about, but then now is becoming your reality.
Amen to that. And then we also get the short-term satisfaction of having feedback. Hey, thanks for helping on that project. Hey, thanks for doing that. And truthfully, that's the thing that turns us as human beings on, is that appreciation from others of a job well done. And it will stack on itself.
Yeah.
Without us having to interfere with all of the, how is that going to happen?
That's right.
When will it come? Which is not to say not to have the great conversations, the impactful interactions along the way, so that your boss, other colleagues, etc., know what you're up to.
Exactly.
Do not shine in a closed area. The only way to see the shine is by expressing yourself and being visible in your shine, which
without a doubt
does equate to being excellent in what you're doing now.
What you're doing right now, period, end of story. And I can tell you that, even with the false goals and fake goals that I had around, because I did focus on the process. And then, once I had that conversation with Amy, going back and really drilling down on me and what really works and what type of movies do I want to make, that process has produced the result that I wanted. Think about this. I knew at 18 years old that I wanted to produce films. At 22, when I graduated USC, I had a business plan for my production company. So I always knew that's where it was going.
Mm-hmm.
If I had gotten the promotion at Sony, I may have never ultimately achieved my real goal. It would have taken me down a path thinking that was the path, right? Because I'm going to be this executive and do that for the rest of my life. And it's like, no, God says, I have another plan and a path for you.
Yeah.
And so being able to reset those expectations and being able to get on the right path has ultimately produced a result, but it came through focusing on the process.
Right. And another note card all of my clients know about is everything always works out for me.
I love it. I love that.
And that is the having the faith to know that when things happen, not really in our expectations, perhaps, that moving through that in a faith-based way is the way that's always going to be for our highest good. Take the lesson, take the lesson, take the lesson, take the lesson. And as you know, I always say, take the lesson so you can get the blessing.
Amen.
And that's what we have to move through and go through. Folks, just to remind you, DeVon's book, Live Free, comes out May 4th, but you can order it today. I I must say, in many ways, DeVon, I feel like we are soul brother and soul sister.
Oh, without a doubt.
And just also reading some of your shares on your career and the things that worked in your career or didn't is the stuff that we do all day long in our kick-ass transformational workshop. And folks, if you're listening today and you want to learn how to work with me, it's mofall.com/live clarity, and we'll book you up for a clarity call. As DeVon had mentioned, clarity is everything. It may not always be what you want to hear, but truth can be a powerful mover from point A to point B. And we're happy to help you out with that. DeVon, I'd love you to give us maybe one of your biggest expressions of your Live Free book. What do you want to leave our folks with today as a parting message?
Yeah, I just want everyone to be left with the idea that you were created to be free.
Mm-hmm.
It's your divine right.
Yes.
So don't look at it as, something that, I hope one day. No, that's your creed. That's your right.
Yes.
So the same way we, stand on the right of freedom of speech, stand on the right to be free.
Mm-hmm.
And do not let any situation or any person take that freedom from you. Take your freedom back, take your power back, and put yourself on a path to be as free as you've ever been. I promise you, when you do it, everything, as you said, works out in your favor.
That's right. Amen to that. DeVon, thank you so much for joining me today on my Motivational Monday Coach Mo Live. If you're catching this live, thank you so very much for joining us live. If you're catching this on a replay or in the podcast version, please know that you can find DeVon's book on any of the major booksellers. There is a link here in the Facebook Live comments for you to keep it super easy. But please do catch DeVon's book, Live Free, Exceed Your Highest Expectations, and all the major booksellers. DeVon, I'm really, really happy that you stopped here and shared all of your words of wisdom. And to have this conversation has really been a blessing and a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. You're a blessing, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
All righty.